Three men were floating in the Gulf of Mexico. Their boat was gone. The sun had burned their skin for almost an entire day. Waves had separated them from the world, and the rescuers looking for them were searching an enormous expanse of open water. One man had already attempted a desperate swim toward a distant boat. Another had apparently suffered a heart attack without realizing it. And the third man, exhausted after nearly 24 hours in the water, had begun to believe he might never make it home. Then something powerful struck from beneath the surface. A shark surged toward Nguyen and clamped its jaws onto the life preserver covering his chest. Its face was inches from his own. Lu could not outrun it. He could not climb out of the water. He had only one chance. He drove both thumbs into the shark's eyes, and somehow the shark released him. This is the incredible true story of three friends who survived a sinking boat, a night in the Gulf of Mexico, and a direct shark attack before the United States Coast Guard finally found them. Although this story returned to headlines in July 2026, the ordeal itself happened in October 2022. Its renewed attention came with the publication of Michael Tugias's survival book, In Deep Water. And the shark attack was only one part of what these men endured. The first fishing trip on October 8, 2022, longtime friends Phong Le, Luan Nguyen, and Son Nguyen headed into the Gulf of Mexico aboard Le's newly purchased fishing boat. It was supposed to be a celebration, a first fishing trip on a new vessel. Instead, it became a chain of failures in which every problem made the next one more dangerous. At some point, the boat began taking on water. Water entering a boat does not always create immediate panic. A small leak may remain hidden beneath the deck. The crew may not realize how serious it is until the vessel is already riding lower and responding differently to the waves. By the time the men recognized the danger, they were trying to return toward shore. But the boat's bilge system was not removing the water effectively. Their radio calls did not reach anyone who could help them, and a wave reportedly overwhelmed the increasingly unstable vessel. The engines stopped. The boat was no longer carrying three men through the Gulf. It was becoming a sinking object beneath them, abandoning the boat. When a boat sinks quickly, even basic survival equipment can become impossible to retrieve. A flare gun stored somewhere inside the vessel is useless when the compartment containing it is underwater. A radio is useless when it cannot reach another station. A life raft is useless when nobody can deploy it before the boat disappears. The men entered the water with life jackets, but they did not have a conventional survival raft. They managed to recover two floating coolers and tie them together. That improvised structure became the center of their tiny world. One of the coolers reportedly contained drinking water, fruit, and a small amount of food. Those supplies were valuable, but the coolers did not lift the men completely out of the water. They still had to hold themselves against the floating containers while waves repeatedly moved over and around them. This distinction matters. A person sitting inside an enclosed life raft is protected from some heat loss, marine animals, and constant immersion. These men were still in the Gulf. Their legs were hanging below the surface. Their bodies were exposed to the current. And as the damaged boat vanished beneath them, their most visible object disappeared with it. Almost invisible, finding a boat from the air can already be difficult. Finding three human heads floating among miles of moving waves is dramatically harder. A person in open water may be visible for only seconds as an aircraft passes overhead. Waves can hide a survivor. Sunlight can produce glare. Darkness can reduce the search to instruments, patterns, and calculated probability. The men's families eventually realized that something was wrong and contacted authorities. But rescuers did not have a simple, precise location waiting for them. The Coast Guard had to search a vast section of the Gulf, while the survivors drifted farther from the place where their boat had gone down. Later accounts described the search area as comparable in size to Rhode Island. This is one of the cruelest realities of being lost at sea. The rescuers may be searching, helicopters may be flying, boats may be moving through established patterns. But the survivor sees only an empty horizon and has no way of knowing whether anyone is coming. The first night. The first evening brought another threat. Many people imagine hypothermia only in icy water. But water removes heat from the body much faster than air, and prolonged immersion can steadily reduce a person's temperature even when the surrounding environment does not initially feel dangerously cold. The men had also lost protection from the sun. Their hats and sunglasses were gone. During the day, their faces and exposed skin absorbed hours of direct sunlight. As darkness arrived, the problem reversed. Fatigue, wind, and constant immersion made it difficult to remain warm. They were also repeatedly stung by jellyfish. Every wave required energy. Every attempt to keep the coolers together required attention. Every hour took something from them. And they had no guarantee that surviving the night would improve their chances. A boat on the horizon. At some point, the men saw what appeared to be a shrimp boat. For Phong Lê, it represented something more than a distant vessel. It represented a choice. He could remain with his friends and hope rescuers found them, or he could leave the coolers and attempt to swim toward the only possible help they could see. Swimming away from flotation in open water is an enormous gamble. Distance is difficult to judge at sea. A vessel that appears close may be miles away. Waves repeatedly block the swimmer's view, and currents can move the swimmer sideways even as he believes he is making progress. Le reportedly swam more than 5 miles during the ordeal. At one stage, he came close enough to a shrimp boat to believe he might be heard. But the crew did not see him. The boat turned and moved away. Imagine what that moment must have felt like. After abandoning the small amount of security offered by the coolers, he had crossed miles of open water. He had seen rescue directly in front of him. Then it disappeared. But the swim eventually produced something nearly as important. Lee's cell phone briefly obtained a signal. 2% phones are not dependable offshore survival devices. Water can destroy them, batteries fail, and cellular coverage usually disappears far from shore. But in this case, the phone became a final, unlikely connection. Lee reportedly had only about 2% battery power remaining when he managed to send his location to a friend. He saw the beginning of a reply. Then the battery died. The message had gone through, but Lê had no confirmation that anyone understood it or could reach him. According to the survivors' later account, they heard the Coast Guard helicopter less than 2 hours afterward. But before rescue arrived, the situation around the coolers had become even more desperate. The heart attack nobody recognized son Nguyen, known as Sonny, had been using his strength to help move and stabilize the improvised raft. He continued fighting against the waves and exhaustion. Only after the rescue did doctors reportedly discover that he had suffered a heart attack during the ordeal. He had not experienced the kind of dramatic chest pain that people commonly associate with a cardiac emergency. He kept working because he did not know what his body had endured. This shows how survival emergencies can conceal serious medical problems. Adrenaline, cold, fatigue, and fear can blur symptoms. A person may appear conscious and functional while a potentially fatal process is developing inside the body. Sonny was fighting the sea while his own heart was in distress. Nearby, Lou was reaching his psychological breaking point. Lou's final message. After nearly 24 hours in the water, Lou was exhausted. Later retellings say that he recorded a short video of himself floating in the waves, a silent final message intended to show his family that he had continued fighting. He was beginning to surrender mentally. Then the shark appeared. Contemporary interviews confirmed that a shark bit the front of Lou's life jacket. The 2026 account identifies it as a tiger shark and describes the animal raising its head and part of its body from the water during the strike. The shark did not initially clamp onto Lou's unprotected chest. Its teeth caught the flotation material covering him. That life jacket created a narrow barrier between the shark's jaws and his body. But Lou was still face to face with the animal. A shark attack at the surface is chaotic. The victim cannot plant his feet, establish balance, or move with normal strength. Every attempt to strike pushes the body backward through the water. Lou reacted instinctively. He struck the shark and then drove his thumbs toward its eyes. The animal released him and moved away. Lou suffered injuries to his hands, but the life jacket had absorbed the direct bite that might otherwise have reached his chest. The same man who had been preparing for death seconds earlier was suddenly fighting with everything he had. The shark did not end his will to live. it restored it. Why the shark attacked? It is impossible to know exactly what motivated an individual shark. 3 exhausted men had been moving in the water for almost a day. Fish may have gathered around the floating coolers, food residue, or other debris. Splashing and irregular movement can attract investigative attention from predators. A large shark may approach an unfamiliar object using its mouth to investigate it. But from the victim's perspective, the animal's motivation does not matter. A bite through a life jacket could puncture the flotation material. A bite into the torso could cause catastrophic trauma. The important point is that Lu did not remain passive once contact occurred. He targeted a sensitive area, continued fighting, and created enough resistance to make the shark disengage. The sound overhead. Then the men heard something above the waves. A Coast Guard helicopter was approaching. After approximately 28 hours in the Gulf, the survivors had finally been located. Rescue swimmers entered the water and brought the 3 men to safety. They were dehydrated, exhausted, and injured, but all 3 were alive. The Coast Guard had found 3 people who had become almost invisible once their boats sank. The coolers had kept them afloat. The drinking water and fruit had bought them time. The cell phone location had narrowed the search. Their life jackets had prevented drowning. And in Lu's case, one may also have prevented a shark's teeth from reaching his chest. The improvised raft, the transmitted location, and the refusal to stop fighting all contributed to the outcome. The survival lessons. This story contains several lessons that apply to anyone traveling offshore. A properly registered emergency position indicating radio beacon, or EPIRB, can transmit a distress signal and location without depending on cellular reception. A personal locator beacon can provide another layer of protection. A waterproof handheld radio may continue functioning after the main electrical system fails. Flares and signaling devices should be accessible immediately, not buried somewhere they cannot be reached during a rapid sinking. A ditch bag should contain essential survival equipment that can be grabbed in seconds, and everyone aboard should wear a life jacket before an emergency begins. The men survived partly because flotation remained available after the boat disappeared. Without the life jackets, exhaustion alone could have overwhelmed them long before the shark arrived. 28 hours. When people hear this story, the shark attack may be the detail they remember, but the shark occupied only moments of a 28-hour ordeal. The greater battle involved hundreds of smaller decisions. Hold on to the cooler. Protect the drinking water. Stay beside one another. Keep kicking. Try the phone again. Swim toward the boat. Fight the shark. Look toward the sky. Survival is rarely one cinematic act. It is often the decision to continue for one more minute when nothing around you suggests that rescue is coming. 3 friends entered the Gulf for a fishing trip. Their boat sank. One swam miles searching for help. One survived a hidden heart attack. One fought a shark with his bare hands. And against extraordinary odds, all 3 returned home. The Gulf had taken their boat. But it did not take them. Settings. Make the background music cinematic.